Okay, all right, guys. So, Anant and Nagesh, Umesh, Raj, thank you guys for creating this platform here. It's wonderful to be here. So, I'm going to talk about energy efficiency business and the entrepreneurial journey we had in this venture that we created with Rohit and Harry. The company name is called Seven India Energy Management. Seven stands for Save Energy. Two words are combined, and we created this name, Seven India. I've already talked about this, that when we started, we saw this as a tool for financial investments, not just a contributor to sustainability. So that was the whole crux, and I will, through the presentation, I'll talk about why we think so. So here's the outline of next 1 hour. We will briefly talk about 10-15 minutes how we got started, what are the questions that we asked, so that if there is anybody who's aspiring to be entrepreneur can really look at those questions, see what is valuable to him or her. Then we'll spend about 30-40 minutes on energy efficiency business, its financials, and how technology is disrupting the space. After that, we'll come back to entrepreneurial journey. We'll talk about how idea to small business and what it takes to go to enterprise where we are not today. We are still a small business and trying to go to enterprise. And then we'll talk about what we did well and what we missed. Hopefully that will give uh, some ideas and some questions to people who are wanting to start or who are looking to invest in startups. Okay, so our beginning, how we did. So this is one question that we get asked very often. What were the triggers? And particularly people ask us that why did you guys go back from IT to an engineering industry? I wish I could say that our triggers were passion to give it back to the society, to be a job creator. But honestly, none of those were our triggers. Our triggers were simple. Uh, you know, 1998 to 2007, it almost appeared to be a party. Everything was growing. Jobs were growing, your investments were growing at a rapid speed. And it almost felt as if you're not participating in this party, you're missing something. So I call it the intoxication of the bull run of 9 years, really. That made us feel that we should do something. We've got to be doing something on our own. And obviously we had desire to be rich, to be a millionaire at least by 40. So that was another trigger. Then so what used to happen is that in Pune, we still, our entire college gang is there. Every time we gathered, we used to talk about we should do something. And every Friday evening, you're discussing this, and Monday morning, you're going back to work. So when this idea of energy efficiency clicked, we thought this was our big idea. It was an idea that was worthwhile exploring. So we thought we found our big idea. Energy was scarce and expensive in India. So it was very clear that energy saving is going to be non-discretionary to most businesses in India. So we thought that this is a good space to be in. And then obviously we used to hear stories of every Tom, Dick, and Harry getting money. So we thought, okay, let's go to Harry to raise some money and start. So we went to Harry and we poured in some money. So those were our triggers, really. How we got started. Then, so once we had made up our mind, okay, this is what we are going to do. In this space, we want to start a business. But there were some questions to be asked. And I've kind of framed this on Ken's decision-making framework that he talked about the other day. So first question really was, is it worth it? So So when you make up your mind to become an entrepreneur, you ask really, is it worth destabilizing the smooth life that is going on in a job? You're going to disrupt everything. Is it really worth it? So the answer is yes. You begin, and our answer was yes. Then obviously you go to your major stakeholder. You go to your spouse, and you discuss that this is what I want to do. So we did that, and uh, you know, obviously we also made our assessments that in terms of a financial status, that what is the cash reserve that I have? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it good enough? Home is secured, Gadi is secured. Now, really, if something goes wrong, it won't bother me much. So you've done that assessment. We did that assessment, and you go to your spouse and check if he or she really thinks the same. If the answer, if she says, yeah, ja Simran ji le apni zindagi, so you go. Otherwise, you go back to job on Monday morning. So we got an answer. Everybody was on the same page. We resounding yes. We thought, okay, good time to start. And then third question we asked was, if I fail, am I going to emerge better? So these are the three questions. The answer is yes. You start, and that's what we did. We felt possibly answer to all these questions are yes, and that's how we started. So once now space is finalized, you got buy-in from your stakeholders that you can start off. So we started. Then you ask a question, what kind of, so space is clear, energy efficiency space. Now what kind of a business are you going to create in this? Are you building an IP that you're going to monetize a few years later? Or are you going to generate profits every year? So from Ken's example, are you a popcorn machine creator, or are you the buyer of popcorn machine interested in selling popcorn? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought I was getting some calls.
Yeah. Very loud and clear. Very good presentation, sir.
Yeah. So far, very real. The presentation is very real. So I'm enjoying it. Go on.
All right. So we were very clear that we are in the second category. What we are trying to create is a services business which will generate profits every year. We are not building any IP that we can monetize later. So we were in a business that had to generate profit, not only revenue. So today you hear a lot of people chase only revenue. They are not chasing profits because they are looking at monetizing that IP or that company at a later point. But that was not the case with us. And my view is most services business would fall into the second category. So we were second category, done, space finalized, what kind of business we want to create. We are moving ahead, we moved ahead. We had some money from Harry as well. Now, then, everything was done, but we were still not very clear with our business plan. We did not have a concrete business plan that we wanted to chase. Usually the stories that we hear in media and with huge stories, successful stories that come out, people usually say that they had a business plan and then they went out to raise resources to realize those business plans. That was not the case with us. We knew our goals broadly. We knew where we wanted to be, what kind of business we wanted to create, but we didn't have X goals that we were chasing. So we started reverse. We said, okay, what do we have? So instead of chasing a business plan, we said, okay, let's see what means do we have and what can we create from those means. What effect can we create out of those means in terms of goals? And means are really your expertise, assets you can capitalize on, your network. So who you are, who do you know? So we knew SADI. We went to SADI. We knew I had a friend who owned a university. So we went to him. So these are the resources that you think, and then you start planning. So that's how we started. at a later point, somebody told me that this is a formal method which is taught in schools as an effectual entrepreneurship. We didn't know then, but that's why I've given this title of effectual entrepreneur. So, what means you have and what effects can you create with those means? So that's how we started. We went to Sadie, who was creating his college those days. So we had a playground with us. I went to another friend of mine who owned university, and we asked him that, this is what we want to do. He said, okay, do it. And I will not pay you for consulting, but I will pay you for money that you save as, in energy expense. And that worked very well for us. He said, I'm not going to pay for consulting. So we realized that, okay, we need to do projects, save money, and then people will pay. So it worked very well for us. We got our playgrounds very early. So that was our story of our starting up. It was a very, there was no jazz, no great funding behind it. We just started because we wanted to participate in this party and we thought we had a big idea. So I can take questions if there are any so far. Otherwise, I'll move forward to the, oops.
Hey, Praveen, this is Monty here.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on your first project, how you actually ended up saving money for this university, your friend of? What did you actually do?
Okay, so hold on, Monty. I think I've lost the share, right? It's a screen share?
You're not sharing the screen.
Okay, wait a minute. I don't know what went wrong.
Probably clicked.
So, Monty, while I'm putting the screen, when we started, Monty, the solutions were very simple. We did not have a lot of technology. So we went and we saved money for him in lighting. That was back in 2011. So we still had a lot of conventional lighting. We replaced it with LEDs. We saved money in his air conditioning in his auditorium. So this university had an auditorium. We used some tools, thermostat-based tools. Those were available, and we saved money for him in those air conditions. We saved money for him in pumps. So that was our first project, Monty. Today we're doing a lot of things, but initially we focus on simple air conditioning, lighting, and pumping. Those were the areas.
Cool, thank you.
Hey, PD, one question. But why those areas? I mean, did you have any background work done on this? As in, what are the typical, components that you can actually improvise efficiency, etc.? Or you had any sort of standard operating procedures or a toolkit with you? How did you?
Shetty, what we had 2 mechanical engineers in the team. Harry was sitting in US sources, he and Rohit.
Okay.
But at the same time, this question was, it's very interesting. This question came up that we are getting into a completely new area.
Yeah, we jumped into the well.
Yeah.
And then we started to float.
So we jumped into it.
Nice one.
So this was, as Rohit said, we said, यार, हम करेंगे क्या? हमें आता तो है नहीं है. तो आंसर वो यार सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग कौन सी आती थी जब हम कॉलेज से बाहर आए थे, तो वो भी हमने we learned after jumping into it. So yeah, Rohit has said it right. We jumped into it. We learned to float.
I remember like Pyaru changing some tube lights in that college, putting some foils, कुछ experiment करके, कुछ silver foil लगा के how to improve the lighting and reduce the power. So I think both Rohit and Pyaru did a lot of experimentation to kind of initially to come up with those solutions. And I think lighting became their foray after all those experimentation and some partnerships also with some good vendors. So it was a very organic evolution of ideas.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So yeah, so while this is, I'm going to talk about it in further slides also, but one good thing that happened was we found a customer who was willing to fund our experiments. So anybody who starts services business, it's very important that you quickly go and find one customer who will fund your experiments at a condition that he'll pay you only if you deliver value. Otherwise, he or she won't pay. So that happened to us, and it worked very well, at least in the first year of operations. Okay, so I'll move forward in talking about energy efficiency, what it is about, and what are the financials of energy. We look at it as two things. It's a financial business and it's a solutioning business.
It's a what?
Solutioning business. So, okay, so since there are a lot of people who may not be aware of this value chain, energy value chain, so just to set the context, I'm going to use this slide and explain our positioning in this space. So in energy, there are power generation companies which are on the supply side. Then there are consumers, business consumers and domestic consumers on the demand side. And in between, there are utilities which transmit and distribute energy. So that's really, that's the broad energy value chain. And in each of these pieces, there are companies that are working towards improving efficiencies and reducing carbon emissions. So on the generation side, you have companies which are into renewable power generation, large plants, wind power, solar power, hydropower. Then there are companies which are into smart grids. So I think Bharat's company does a lot of work in this area in transmission and distribution. If Bharat is here. And then there are a lot of companies who are on the demand side, which are, these companies are focused on optimizing the consumption. So there are renewable energy products, products companies like people who manufacture solar modules, who manufacture windmills like Suzlon. So Suzlon, companies like Suzlon are on both sides. They're in generation and on demand side, I say, because a lot of distributed installations are happening these days, which happen at the consumer end only. So solar and renewable wind power companies will figure in both sides.
Companies like Suzlon used to be on both sides.
Yeah, used to be on both sides, not any longer. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So when we started, Suzlon was a big story. Big story. It was a $1 billion valuation company, and I invested some personal money also, and that's nowhere. So then there are renewable energy services companies like 4PL in India, and then Sun Edison in the US, which went bankrupt. Then there are companies which make energy efficiency products like Thermax, Schneider, Siemens, Honeywell. And then there are a lot of small-time manufacturers who make energy efficiency products, and a lot of startups as well. And then there are companies like us, which are into energy efficiency services, which use these products and build solutions and ultimately save energy for the consumers. That's what these companies are called, ESCOs, energy service companies. That's our space. And I know Chiki is associated. He figures into somewhere in the space in energy storage. Then I think Gutti had dealt with ESCOs a little bit while he was in Philips. Bharat had, I don't know, Rohit, I was talking to Bharat a few days ago. He was part of Conserve team.
Bharat Kapoor.
No, not Bharat Kapoor. Our batchmate Bharat. So yeah, Conserve got acquired by Schneider. So that's how a lot of companies which start as services companies and they convert, they become products. So our hope was also the same, that hopefully we'll be able to productify some of our solutions. And that's when we will make big money. Now, that's
Praveen,
sorry?
If I get, pretty Bharat here actually.
Yeah, Bharat. Hi.
Just to give a perspective to everyone who's there, just if you can go back to the previous slide. Just to add actually, or maybe clarify to this energy value chain, how it has changed. So with the recent, I should say, penetration of what they call distributed energy resources, as you know, you all heard of every house is putting a lot of solar panels, community or farmers, community solar farms are coming up. So with all the generation coming up mostly in the, I should say, the end of the value chain of this, what they call distribution sector. The whole composition or the characters of the consumers are changing. What we have seen as a business consumers, now they call them as a prosumers, which basically means they're also producing the power and also consuming the power. So this whole composition is changing. While we're also looking at the efficiency aspect, they're also trying to see how we can manage the supply and demand both at the consumer end itself, actually. Just to, Praveen referred to what they call smart grid. This is not a smart grid. This is actually a typical representation of the sector, maybe, 10, 15 years back. If you take today, in the context of the smart grid, actually power is actually going in the in all direction, actually, and also especially more so in reverse direction. So it's not one directional power flow from generation all the way to the consumption, but it's also consumers are what they call prosumers are also producing the power and putting back the grid. That's an entirely different challenge. And that, again, there are a lot of opportunities there. I think a lot of the people must have heard about blockchain. So many technologies are evolving to solve the problem there. We can talk about it. I just want to take the time, but I just want to tell you that there's a different perspective to this whole industry now, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. What Bharat is saying, I've tried to keep it simple, Bharat, so that everybody understands it.
No, I understand that, but
instead of trying to more complicate the picture, you're right. No. This entire it's changing completely. It's becoming very distributed.
No, everyone is smart here. They just want to tell them, get a right perspective of the industry, actually, right? So, because just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, Bharat. Okay, so this is the ESCO opportunity in terms of size. Is Subudhi there? He's not going to like this slide for sure.
Hey, Pyaru, we can't see. Pyaru, ये दिख नहीं रहा. Are you still sharing it? It's coming for me, at least. It is coming as a small on the right bottom.
That's something wrong with your end.
Visible to us.
Okay,
you click on that small thing.
What got it. Got it.
All right. Good. So this is as per these are 2018 figures, a report by International Energy Agency. The global ESCO size is about $28.6 billion, and it's growing at average 8%. Incidentally, majority of the work has happened in China and US. Everywhere else, it's been slow. So China has done really well. Their policy support has been tremendous to this industry. They've made funding easily available to these ESCOs, and they've grown. And also Indian ESCO market, as per a report from Ministry of Power, they have launched a plan called Unnati. As per Unnati, they estimate this ESCO market to be of $33 billion by 2033. I honestly don't know how we're going to go from $300 million to $33 billion, but that's the estimate which they've prepared in consultation with some global consultants.
Modi ji hai to mumkin hai.
Huh. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's not, if you look at it, we are at, if you take 25% savings on our present energy base, easily is about 254,000 crores of savings that can be produced in next few years. So the market is huge.
Radish.
Yeah.
When you say market size, you're talking about essentially the saving.
Okay, so this, you can say that it's a saving. So 254,000, that figure that I gave you. So if India's present consumption we take and we say we are going to save 20% by 2033, that's going to be 254,000. Whereas this figure of $33 billion from Ministry of Power comes as an investment. So their view is that $33 billion will be required for India to save about 20% by 2033. And this $28.6 billion is actual savings that were generated globally in 2018. Sajesh, that was Sajesh, right?
Got it.
The voice is not clear.
Okay.
No,
So, Pyaru, I have another question. So, what happens to this energy that we are saving? Like, I have Tesla in my house, right? Solar panels. So I generate, I mean, that generates the energy and it's always in excess. Like it's like supposed to be normal guidance is like 360, but I generate in summer months 460, 470 kilowatt hour, right? So broadly, my question is this ESCO, the market or the ecosystem that you're talking about, which Bharat also spoke, what happens to this savings that we are doing? Where is it actually going? And I'm okay if you're covering it later, but just a question which came to my mind.
Basically, we generate less. We generate less. If we save, so if my demand today is, let's say, 10,000 kilowatt hour, if we save and bring it down to 8,000 kilowatt hour, we generate less in the power plants or wherever you're generating. If it's distributed, so you generate less. You reduce your capacity generation.
Okay.
So for a country like India, though we are a surplus energy country, but the way it is structured, we at the demand side we are always short. So consumer always faces outages because it's very, very distributed. Some states are surplus, some states are really deficit. So we reduce the requirement of generation. Okay. So,
yeah, just to clarify, Monty, I think it's, by saving energy, you're basically reducing the investment on the capital investment on the generation, basically. For example, if you have a very efficient system at your house, instead of having a large solar panel, you can actually have a lesser size solar panel, which leads a less capital investment for the generation, actually. Or, it's basically saving like anything else,
Okay. So wait, just not to drag this, but
came because they wanted to, of course, with all the green initiatives and carbon footprint reduction, they wanted to put less power plants, actually, right? That was the whole intent. So
okay. The reason I was asking is in my case, and not to drag this any further, whatever excess I generate, I sell it to Edison, as in that's how it has been, contract has been there. And Edison pays it to me. So that's where I was going with it. That probably
it's the same. It's the same in India.
Yeah, that's the same in India.
You have two cases.
India framework has to, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was only trying to tell you, India, that's called net metering concept. There's a lot of regulation that needs to happen. I think you are in California. California is probably one of the more matured in a sector or area as such, but a lot of the countries are still adopting that, and the regulation framework is being evolved. I think India is still in the very early stages of this whole net metering concept, and regulations are still being evolved. Actually, they're doing a big pilot right now in Uttar Pradesh, but it's going to have. The whole intent is that whole intent is that not just from excess energy you produce, put it back to grid. The concept is that how can you even sell it to someone, your neighbor? Actually, the day is going to come that you don't have to go and get money back from the utility. Rather, you get money from your neighbor or anyone who wants to buy, for that matter, right? So that's where the whole industry is going, actually, right? Especially with the blockchain technology, that seems that looks very, very possible. So,
hey guys, sorry to butt in a little bit. Just one request, in the interest of time and Praveen's flow, if we could reduce some interruptions, that would help, I feel. Okay, and maybe we can park the questions a little bit for later. Thank you.
Okay. So, thanks guys. And so this is what we really do. We basically use technology and energy engineering to deliver energy saving solutions. Now we have two models. We do energy saving projects as ESCO, popularly called as OPEX model. In this model, let's say Monty has a factory, okay? And Monty says, no, I don't want to invest money. I'm not confident of a solution, so I'm not going to invest. So at that stage, we say, okay, Monty, we're going to invest this money. And we will get into a saving sharing contract. You pay us as you save. And during the contract period, we'll take the larger portion of the saving. And you get less, but once we work out, it's all yours. And we make the entire capital investment there. Then the second model is we basically do energy saving projects and EPC CapEx model where customer makes the investment. So if Monty says, okay, I like the solution, I'm going to invest, I'm going to keep all the savings, we make our margins and work out. Our predominant model is ESCO, OPEX model. And we also have our own IoT energy monitoring system. We have a framework that we use to monitor output and input both. That's what really we are focused on. Mostly we use it for our own projects, but we also deploy it if we get customers. We have few. But yeah, majority of work is in this area, energy saving projects in OPEX model. Geographically, we are present across India, and we have a little bit of presence in Saudi Arabia. So, bit of exports. All right, this is our revenue model. How we make money. Most energy service companies want to do this, but actually very few of them do true ESCO OPEX model. Most of them try to do EPC projects, but we were very focused and we did majority of work in this. So what we do is, okay, we have let's say we went to RPG Raycam and we did identify a few projects for them. We went to Chiki and we said, okay, Chiki, we can save 10 lakh rupees for you a month, and it's going to need a capital of 1.2 crores. Chiki says, okay, I don't have capital. So we come back and say, okay, we will deploy this. So we go to financial institutions, we go to HNIs, we borrow this money, we come back, we buy products, we build our solution, we deploy the solution, implement, and customers. So Chiki starts saving energy now. He's reduced his energy expense. So as he saves money, he pays us every month. We pay it back to financial institution or HNI, whoever is our lender. And the cycle continues. So typically our contract period is of 36 months. We try to align our contract period with the loan period. So as long as we're getting revenue, we repay, and we keep the delta with us as our profit. So far we've used only loans, but now we are planning to introduce an equity model here. So, people may not pick up stake in our company, but we can go to them and say, we have this project which has XYZ IRR, and this is the capital investment needed. If you make the investment, we'll share profits with you, but you also share risk with us. So they get higher returns, they share risk with us. And that's how I meant, some of these projects produce 25% IRR or MIRR in fact. And, so the investors also can make money. Consumers make money, investors make money, and we make money, and together we save energy for the country. That's how it is. This is our revenue model. These are our principles, which we can say almost patthar ki lakir. We don't deviate from them. We have not deviated so far, at least. So we do projects only if it generates value for customers. So if there are times when a customer comes to us that we want to do this project, and we actually tell them that, you know what, this project is all about, this project is going to generate 5% returns for you, it doesn't make sense, don't do it. So we generate value for customer and we retain part of it for ourselves. That's very clear. We have never funded our growth through debt. We only fund projects through debt. We don't really, borrow money and deploy in growth. And that, I think, in tough times has saved us. Some successful businessmen have also told us that you guys are making mistakes. So there's mixed feedback on this. However, this has saved in rough times. So we stuck to it, and we continue to stick to it. So the third principle is we don't compromise on unit economics. So we don't do projects which are not profitable. So every project's details are analyzed. Every project's MIRR is calculated, and we calculate the risk before we implement. So our principle is, if this is a ESCO project MIRR should be at least 10% more than cost of capital. If this is EPC project, then project MIRR should be then more than at least customers' own business ROI. Otherwise, we don't do it. I'm going to show you an Excel sheet here. I'm going to stop sharing the PPT and move to Excel so that I'll share how we actually evaluate each of these projects. Nagesh, can you stop? Can you pause the recording for this?
No, I think another cool thing I just want to add here is that in most businesses and when people kind of evaluate businesses, these sheets are made in theory. I think one really cool thing about this business is that these sheets are actually real sheets.
And other thing is, can I felt like this is proper understanding what is happening and they're monitoring that in a simple Excel.
Yep. Thank you.
Praveen, you're back to recording.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
I
now
just started also. Another observation, just another perspective is that, each of these projects are business in itself with clear entry-exit criteria, right? You evaluate the business opportunity, you get in and you get out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about financials, how we make decisions, how we have evolved as a company on our capability. This slide shows that we started as a very conventional engineering solution company. Then we started buying third-party IoT technologies, which used to give us data for 30 minutes sampling rate, and it got better later at 10-minute sampling rate. So once we had data, we started combining data analytics and energy engineering both. And then we built our own IoT framework. So when we built our own IoT framework, we had 1 minute sampling rate. So suddenly our data volume became 10 times. And once we had a lot of data, we thought, let's try to do something different. Everybody's talking about machine learning. Maybe we can also try. And then we went out to try Azure ML Studio. And when we looked at Azure ML Studio, we realized, okay, this is actually very simple to use. Even energy analysts can do it. You don't need IT guys to do that. This is, in fact, as recent as this year, we started making these in January. We had our first success in March. I will talk about that. And in fact, that's not yet implemented. When we did some modeling, we realized, actually we were shocked with the result, and I'll share that in the case study. We realized that all our engineering calculations were right, but at the same time, the weightages of each factor were very different than what we had imagined. So yeah, this is how we evolved. Conventional energy engineering solution company, a bit of analytics. Then we are now trying to move towards IoT and machine learning. This is our stack. This is how it looks. So whatever facility or let's say utility we target. So let's take, for example, we target air compressors in any plant. So first we digitize the entire compressed air system. We install airflow meters, we install pressure sensor, we install energy meter, and our edge device, which we call it 7 IoT gateway. This pulls data from all these meters and sensors. It sends this data back to our cloud, which data store is hosted on AWS. It's primarily time series data, not very complex, but it's pretty useful data. Once this data comes, we have our engine, which kind of gives visualizations to our own team, to our customer, and then our team, engineering team does, energy engineering team does apply energy engineering on it, and the analytics team, applies analytics. We combine these things and come up with the solutions. And as I said, recently we've tried machine learning models, so we've generated some machine learning models. So after all this, we make our decisions. So today, majority of our decisions are semi-automatic. So we use Azure ML Studio to run models. Then energy engineers do their engineering calculations, and then both of them together decide that, okay, what is that we're going to do? on this utility that saves, reduces the energy consumption and improves the efficiency really. We've done a little bit of work on controlling, not much, but yeah, we intend to take controlling engine forward. As of today, we are making some decisions. So we are predicting what is going to be the compressor's efficiency or specific energy consumption, so kWh per cubic feet of air tomorrow. And we then decide, the controlling engine sends a frequency that should be set in the variable frequency drive. This IoT gateway then sends that to instruction to the drive. Now, most of these drives are smart enough to accept instructions. All of them have come with RS485 port. So we've tried with ABB. We partnered with ABB and we use mostly ABB's drive. Very recently, we started working with Schneider. Schneider empaneled us as a channel partner. So hopefully we'll start doing with some of the Schneider products as well. So this is our stack. So, you know, hopefully, other day what Kobre and Monty was sharing, the edge machine learning. So when that technology, we learn that technology and we can start using, we'll start, you know, building models in this edge device itself, and we will give instructions to the machine there itself. We don't need to come back to cloud. So our action become more real time once those technologies settle down. So we hope that we'll get there. We will explore all those technologies. So that's why I said, you know, this is a very good use case for machine learning models and even edge ML. Now, this is the case study. I want to show the impact of technology here, and also how we've grown as an organization as we started using technology. So, of course, we made our mistake. We delayed the use of technology, which costed us, and I'm going to talk about that in our hits and misses. So this is one project. Now, again, this project is simplified. You know, I have not captured all technical details just to keep it simple so that everybody understands it. So, you know, this project was about replacement of fuel-fired heating boilers with electrical heat pump in a 5-star hotel. So this is, heat pump is a reverse of refrigeration technology. In air conditioning, we take heat from the ambient and we throw it out to the environment. Whereas in this case, you take the heat from ambience and give it to the water that you're trying to heat. This works much better than our boilers. So target was to improve efficiency with simply heat output by energy input. So when we were, in fact, this project, we've done these 3 projects and at every stage of our, you know, capability. So when we were a purely engineering company, we used to take sample basis data. So we had the flow rates a few times during 24 hours, few times output input temperatures on sample, a few times in 24 hours. And we built our solutions around that with whatever data we had. So majorly we relied on engineering rules. So as a heat pump, our understanding was, and it is true as well, that this depends on water flow rate, target temperature, ambient temperature, and relative humidity. So we went in building those solutions and we saved around 40% of the energy in this case. Suddenly, when we deployed Purchase IoT, we started getting more data. We were getting data for 10 minutes. We had more data. Now we were able to, once we had this 10 minutes data, we were able to identify how much is the demand in each 10-minute zone. We were also able to identify how is the efficiency in each of these 10-minute slots. So our actions were much more targeted. Now we knew, okay, these are the times when the machine is actually not working efficient, and these are the times when machine is working efficient. So we were able to target our actions, and then we were also able to spot wastages. You know, so for example, if you saw, you know, high hot water usage at 3 a.m., it's usually a leakage unless a Bharat is staying in a hotel. So it was mostly a leakage. So we could fix the problems early on, which we were able to fix only after 24 hours or 2 days or 3 days earlier. So our savings actually went up to 55%. But the rules still remain, engineering rules still remain. Now, when we did machine learning models, after we got data, our understanding turned on its head completely. We always thought that the efficiency depends on water flow rate, target temperature, ambient temperature, and RH. And when we did this, we realized that actually 85% depends on only on flow rate. Everything else is a waste. Everything else is 5%, 2%, 3%. You really don't need to bother about it. If you target only flow rate, you'll be able to achieve tremendous results. Now we knew this finding, it shocked us, and we went back to a manufacturer. It shocked him. He was not ready to accept, and we said, okay, but he agreed that we will try. But right now, this happened in April. We are waiting for hotels to become operational again. We're going to try this, and if somebody is keen, circle back to me. I will share the results. We are very gung-ho about it. And if this clicks, then we are looking at a lot of things changing for us, a lot of things. Whatever we were trying, getting incremental efficiency improvements, we'll possibly make, we will know what exactly drives, majorly drives. So it's a transformation for us almost. Okay, and with that, I have kind of covered the nitty-gritties of energy efficiency business through our company. I think we can stop here and take questions before I go back to entrepreneurial things, what our learnings were, how we see an organization goes through a cycle. I'm okay. Are there questions in chat window? I don't know.
So Praveen, what is the role of all these three people like Rohit, you and Pyaro in this whole setup? Who does what exact role wise?
Yeah, I think Sony will park that question later. Today I am running it completely. Earlier, I and Rohit, I used to do mostly sales. Rohit was running the engineering team. Harry was the investor. We were blowing up his money. So Harry was never an active role in the company.
So he is your angel investor, huh?
Yeah, he was our angel investor.
From Abu Dhabi.
Sorry?
Kiran here from Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, hi, Kiran.
Could you share, apart from this example which you showed in saving of energy in a water heating boiler, or this particular example, could you also share other larger or applications where you have done similar?
Okay, so I can tell you chillers is a very good example, Kiran. It will apply, the same thing will apply to chiller because chiller and heat pump are not different in terms of technology. Air compressors, we have not run we've run machine learning models on air compressors, but it's not a transformational result. But air compressors, when we did only engineering based on sample data, our results were in the range of 19 to 25% saving. And when we did, when we applied IoT and analytics along with energy engineering, our results went up to 45%.
How about water pumping stations? I think the chillers are typical examples of sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Pumping stations are a wonderful use case for this. Absolutely. I'll give you another example. I think in one of the presentations, I had a chat with Guru and Raj both. So another example for pumps is there are a lot of borewell pumps, right? So when we did without data, we always calculated only efficiency. So if you're running at 30% efficiency, you improve it to 55% and that's how you produce savings. But when we started gathering data, we realized that actually borewell pumps also work differently. So what happens is borewells recharge. Once we got data, we realized that, okay, pump is operating at a different head within 30-minute slot. So its efficiency was varying within 30-minute slot. And as a result, what we did was we said, okay, let's do one thing. Anyway, its flow rates are reducing within the 30-minute slot. So let us run it for half an hour. Let's give a pause for another half an hour so that it recharges and it comes at a lesser duty point. And we run the pump all the time at the best efficiency point. And in that project, we actually produced 66% savings. So larger pumps, it's a wonderful use case, Kiran.
Well, this is Anand. Wanted to ask the efficiency improvement. The efficiency improvement includes the investment in ML and IoT and cloud savings and all that?
Absolutely.
Cloud costs?
In the cost, yes, it includes. Thankfully, these technologies are not so expensive these days, thanks to work that Monty and Cobre are doing. So basically, majority of them are available at low cost. So, when we moved to machine learning, we did not have to pay a lot of money. So I can't imagine if we had to do this 5 years ago, we wouldn't have managed to do it. But today we are able to do it because cloud cost is low, and then even cost that you pay to these companies to have these subscriptions is not very high. And even the cost of IoT has come down a lot. So you really can collect data, at a high sampling rate.
You mentioned an application which you did in Saudi Arabia. Could you share some info on that? What exactly?
So Saudi Arabia, we are primarily working with one company called Asala Group. We are only doing energy audits for them. We haven't done any project in Saudi Arabia. So the contract is such that we are doing energy audits for them, and they are investing money in the projects. They are doing ESCO projects.
Okay, okay, understood. Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Praveen, this is Amit.
Yeah, Amit.
I was just going to go on the business side a little bit, if you don't mind. So,
yeah, sure,
as an entrepreneur, what are some of the mistakes that you might have made, and what would you have done differently if you had to go back and do it all over again?
Okay, I have a slide dedicated to that, Amit. If you were to count mistakes, I think it will take 24 hours to go through, but I'll highlight few of the mistakes. I have a slide dedicated to it coming up.
Hey, hi, PD, Sarish. Who are your buyers?
Sorry?
I mean, if you went for any organization, any industry or company, so who are your buyers? Are they your plant manager or buyer?
So in small and medium enterprises, the buyer is usually the owner. So any organization up to revenue of 500 crores, generally it starts with maintenance head, and the decision making happens at the owner level. Otherwise, for large companies, usually engineering heads or maintenance heads, and if they are centrally controlled, the decisions happen in corporate offices. So for hotels, it starts with the chief engineer, goes to general manager, but the decision making happens at corporate office.
And
so
your target account?
First point of contact is always maintenance head.
Praveen, this is Hemant. A great talk, very insightful. How much of your success do you attribute to your hard work versus your good looks?
Versus?
Your good looks, like all the founders.
No, I think good looks, if you had Rohit Sharma is there, you have to have a look at him. That's what I did. Every time there was a lady on the other side, I asked Rohit to attend the sales meet. I never went there.
Did you compete against each other?
No, sir.
It's very, very cool. He sent Rohit out, okay?
Sorry?
You sent Rohit out, right, from Seven?
Yeah, I was actually jealous of all the all the dates you were making with our customers. Okay, if there are no further questions on this, I will move, and we can take up questions later as well. So,
hey, Pyaru, one question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Annie.
Yeah, so some of the devices, let's say your devices, valves and everything, or the devices that you regulate and do IoT and monitor, the newer versions of them may come with the sensors and regulators built in.
Right.
How does then the solution like Save Energy gets affected by that?
No, so Seni, for us, the saving of energy does not lie in those sensors and meters. Those are just measuring devices to collect data. So it gives us what is the measurement rather than the actual.
Praveen, his question is different. He's saying the newer technologies have that inbuilt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking more residential, let's say my AC or my heating furnace has some regulation in it in terms of energy and sensor and all that. So how does it affect?
Seni, the market, the typical instruments that are already installed that are there, and they typically do not change so quickly just because they have new sensors. The customer or the owner will not change them. So we have to retrofit these devices there, because the end instrument may cost a bomb, and these instruments, the IoT devices can be then fitted on top of that.
Oh, I see. So you are saying that at the industrial scale, the cost of replacement is so high
much
that
more.
And you will still have a very big install base to,
we still have a big install base.
Not just that.
We'll easily get 3 to 5 years. We'll easily get Seni 3 to 5 years. Sorry, Kenneth, you were saying something?
I think also, that's a very modest answer, but I think the other part of it also is that, I've seen these guys through this entire journey. When the Raspberry Pi came out, these guys were one of the first guys who bought it and started experimenting, even a lot of these sensors. So it's quite likely that, some of these new sensors, especially on the industrial side, might be built by these guys also, because these guys have actually done a lot of, engineering with a lot of these low-cost computers and sensors that have come out. And, unbelievable as it might sound, Rohit and Pyaru were tinkering around with these devices sitting in Pune.
No, of course, yes. Yes,
More
no,
so
I think
because it
that's a
was
great
Rohit and
point.
Pyaru.
No, I'm saying it's quite incredible because, I think it's just a testament to what happens if you do a business for long enough and just stick to it. What started somewhere completely different has reached somewhere absolutely completely different just because you always had your brain on and were innovating through it.
Sure. No, I think the team would have developed enough expertise to even create those smart devices and all that. So definitely. Thanks, guys.
Oh, okay. So we come back to the, from our experience, what are the different stages of startup? We're purely talking from our experience. Others may have different thought on this completely, but this is how we broadly see it. We had an idea. That idea then gets converted to a small business first. Now the small business, and I say it's not to be confused with prototype. This is a functional business where all wheels are operating well. It's a profitable business. The team is in place, and it can be replicated very easily. So the only thing that is left is you raise external capital, and then you replicate that everywhere else, and you become an enterprise with that scale. So scaling up is required with that capital. So we are today on that journey from small business to enterprise. We've refused 2 rounds of funding or 2 offers of funding for various reasons. In fact, one of them was after signing up the term sheets. When I went to sign the share purchase agreements, I backed out. And here, this is what I suggest to people that if you're not comfortable with term sheets, don't sign them. Because I was not comfortable, I still signed it. And when the time came to sign share purchase agreements, I wasn't comfortable. Thankfully, investors were quite considering. When I told them I'm not comfortable, I'm not signing, they did not make a lot of issue of it. But it's not a good thing to do. I know Kenneth and Sunil will tell you anyway more about it. So scaling up has its own challenges, but once you've taken the time to develop the idea to a functioning business, you've done the majority of the work. It's about getting capital and scaling up. It is still a roller coaster of scaling up, I call it as. And to my mind, when you go towards enterprise, only 2 things can happen. Either you'll fail or you will succeed. There is no midway when you move from small business to enterprise. So those are my thoughts on stages of startup. Now, Amit, we'll talk about, I'll answer your question here, our hits and misses. We have perhaps equal amount of hits and misses. So, what we would do differently is few things we'll mention here. Our hits were, I have said that in earlier slides. I think the best thing that we did was we found one customer who was willing to fund our experiments. And that gave us a good head start. And we were, first year we ended first year with 2-3 solutions and some profits. And that, the customer continues to be our customer even today. In our life, possibly is, the largest revenue may have come from the same customer, and the same customer is also waiting for, he's willing to make investments. We've told him that once we get another investor, we'll bring you on board. And he's a very close friend also. So, and then second good thing we did was we created a blue ocean, we think, so this energy market was, there were players, mostly consultants were there. So energy auditors, as they are called, they were focusing only on large industries where the energy bill was at least 50 lakhs a month. Even 50 lakhs a month energy bill is a very modest bill. It's not very high bill. So that's what people were focusing on. And we had started, we didn't have a lot of technical ability. So we thought, okay, we saw one market, which was residential gated communities, which was completely untouched. The energy rates were very high. We felt returns are going to be good, no competition at all. So we started there. And we did fair bit of work in this area. And it went to this extent that state of Maharashtra introduced residential community category as a category in state level energy conservation awards. And that was due to our work. We were the only company that worked. And now there are a few more companies. People have realized that this is a good route to kind of build your capability. So few companies have started this. So that was, and in fact, during this lockdown period, if anything that has saved us is residential projects. Because most commercial establishments were shut, our equipment were not in use, no cash flows from there, but everybody was working from home, and anyway people staying home, and so we had cash flow from those projects. I think we have a good client list. We have L&T, we have Taj Hotels, we have Nexus Mall, we have few good names in the mid-sized plant, Jayshree Polymer, we have Symbiosis Universities. Then we have GVK. We also have done some work. Siemens, Asala is obviously our export customer, and we think we managed to create a fair brand in the ESCO community. The ESCO community still happens to be very small in India. Very, very small. Siemens and Schneiders are listed as ESCO, but they don't do ESCO work. They work with companies like us to do their ESCO projects. So we are channel partners with Schneider. And Bureau of Energy Efficiency, also we have good credibility. Bureau of Energy Efficiency is equivalent of Department of Energy in the US. So it's a regulating body for these kind of companies. And I think our focus on unit economics saved us from many mistakes. Otherwise, if we didn't have focus on unit economics, we would have made a lot of mistakes. And would have landed up in doing some projects which were not useful. So possibly that's why we were profitable from year one. Okay. Misses, so our hits were, some were intentional, some were, maybe we call it simply serendipity. Something happened, but a majority were intentional. Misses, we had many mistakes. Amit, you can ask me questions if at this point, if you have more. So we, some mistakes costed us less, some mistakes costed us big time. So the first one I've written, we compromise investment in technology to get better payback. So when we started as an engineering company, in fact, our intention was always to bring technology to disrupt the space. But we got carried away. We got carried away because those days technology was expensive. IoT devices were expensive, measurement devices. with communication ports were expensive. So we did not really see how the cost addition of technology was going to result in extra energy savings and eventually bring the payback down. I think this was a blunder. It possibly costed us maybe year or two. I suggest anybody who starts a business, just blindly assume that technology is going to help you. A lot of you may say that, okay, this is hygiene. How did you make this mistake? But we did. So we got carried away. We missed this. Technology is the way to go. Okay, the second one is also a big one. I'm sure Harry will be smiling on this one if he sees that.
PD, I'm sorry. Hope this is not that mountain resort issue. Or the sorry.
No, Sachin, that's not that story. You should hear from Kenneth only. So we had seed capital which we had pulled in. Harry had given us some money. We had pulled in our money. We used that capital very, very inefficiently. I think it was almost stupid. I won't shy away from calling it stupid. And it is stupid enough not to talk in this forum. So I think whatever little amount anybody gets when you start, just you have to make sure that you use that capital very efficiently. Another mistake we made was, after good first 12 months, we made a mistake. This industry was different. We started pricing our services based on our opportunity cost. So I and Rohit were there and we had a small team. So obviously the cost structure was screwed. We were trying to get most money for our time as well. So we started pricing based on this, but we ended up with 9 months of drought. We had no work for 9 months. We were just trying to learn a few things. I think that was another big mistake. At this period, first 2 years, the focus should be just do what work you get. At any price, just build case studies. That should have been focus, which we missed for a period of 9 months, but we came back. After that 9 months, we realized, no, this is what we made a mistake, and we came back. Then I'm going to talk about mother of all mistakes, and I'll ask Rohit also to add a story in this, that we had a meeting. So, this is one which is mother of all mistakes. What Michael Berger calls it as entrepreneurial Caesar. For a long time, we worked in our business and not on it. So we continued to work like self-employed for a long period, and then we didn't realize this. And in fact, a lot of people tell us that this is what happens with most small businesses. 90% of the small businesses make this mistake, but we feel bad because we came from managerial backgrounds and we still made this mistake. So there was one interesting meeting. I think Rohit, you want to add about that meeting we met Canvas CFO?
Yeah, that was kind of our first opportunity to get some funds, and we met that person 2-3 times, and then he said, "What are you guys selling me? Because you guys are kind of self-employed. You are not creating any value." And that is when it dawned us that what we have done is kind of become more like a shop owner, where we are running after, because what we did initially was because we were struggling, because we entered a space where we had no idea of what that is. We were both from IT, and even I had left my mechanical thing in almost 2001. So what really happened is that we struggled for a long time as to what this space really is. And that guy then basically backed out, and he said, you are not creating any organization. You are just self-employed professionals. So I think that is when we kind of realized what we are doing, and we had a very sad day because that meeting was in the early half of the day, and both of us came back, and we had a very smallish office at that time, and we kept quiet for a long time. I think that was something that we realized almost it was, I think, Praveen, it was 2.5 years after we had already started, right?
Almost 3 years, I think.
So we were thinking, kya karna hai abhi? That guy is kind of right. So
he was absolutely bang on. In fact, he just heard us and said this, and we were like, "Yaar, ye to humne nahi socha tha hum kar rahe hain, but this is what we were doing." So good
because what all we read. So there was some dearth of professionals also in this area. So both I and Pyaru got certified as energy auditors. So you won't believe it. Praveen, being a computer engineer, he did all thermal, electrical, all that engineering almost again, because there are the certification has 4 books and it covers.
Sorry, you say again only when you've done it the first time.
Yeah. So no, that is for me. Praveen actually had not done that, so I did it kind of again in that sense. Praveen had a really tough time in that exam. And so we were trying to learn the technology, trying to learn what space we are at the same time, but trying to find customers and try to also find resources who knew this stuff. And it was really hard, and because we didn't have those professionals, and trying to build alliances, and it was maddening. I think we struggled a lot at that time, and then we realized, okay, and we are not very sure also whether we can put in our capital. Only after some time, when we realized that we would have to learn this space, we got one industry veteran, and we would go free of cost with him to learn this space. He was Commander Kumar, who basically had been running this business for around 11 years. So we just went around after him and learned this. Then that ESCO idea dawned, and we had enough confidence कि हाँ कुछ कर सकते हैं. There is ample opportunity to save some energy and put in the capital to back it. Yeah, Praveen, you go.
Yeah, so basically, sorry. Yeah.
So Praveen had a follow-up question. So after that disappointing meeting, what were the organizational changes you made so that your next meeting would be better, or is it still a work in progress?
So we dropped the ball. We started working on that. We started to change the system towards that people are working and we are only providing that supportive environment or ecosystem for them. So we hired better guys. We invested money in better guys for sure. And we let them run the show. So that was the change, and we focused on what we should have.
I think at that point in time we got. I mean, that was the time we actually started the ESCO part that Praveen just covered.
Yeah.
Before that, we were kind of doing more of energy audits, getting revenue out of those kind of just audits, and you get a professional fee paid. So we had some revenue from there, and then we had some EPC kind of revenue where we were actually implementing and the customer was funding. Only after a certain period of time we got enough confidence कि हाँ इसमें अपना पैसा भी लगा सकते हैं और borrowed money can be put here.
So Praveen,
Yeah.
Pradeep here.
Yeah.
So very interesting. I think you guys just followed your passion. You found a space. You found a great company, and more importantly, you found a very nice investor who would give you the maximum independence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Almost no accountability structure.
Which not sure it was a positive or negative.
So I'll add one more thing here. So when I mentioned that
Praveen, it's being recorded. It's being recorded, Praveen.
That's absolutely all right.
Yeah, Harry cannot do a shit now. No, Harry cannot do a shit now. He's done his mistake.
I think hats off to you, Harry. I don't know people have so much confidence in their friends, but a big round of applause. I mean, this is very critical. Anybody who is investing his dollars is bound to be having that confidence. You know, I have discouraged many friends from having partnerships, and such partnerships is just very disruptive. I love it. I really appreciate Harry.
Harry's a loving guy.
Thanks, brother. Hard work and brain is came from
Amazing,
Pyaru
because
and
yeah, I think the first thing we do as entrepreneurs is I first go to my accountant, and the first thing he asks is, tell me your cash flows, how you're going to have it. And we have a 10-year plan. We put it on Excel and we work towards that cash flow targets. And you guys just did it with so much passion. And I think this whole space, that opportunity that you saw, that was more visionary. And I think you did it, man.
All right, we are yet to make it big. Subudhi, we are yet to make it big. Possibly, when we make it big, we'll come back.
हैरी यार मैंने तेरे को कॉलेज में चाय पिलाई थी, मुझे याद रखना भाई.
Praveen, please continue with your presentation. Praveen.
Let's mute everybody, please.
No, I'm done now.
Yeah, please mute your.
We can take up questions. I'll look at the chat window. We are almost done with the slides. There's nothing to add. The only thing I want to add is, to people who are, so another thing that we are adding is remote energy analytics service. So today we are focused on, physically we go and install things, but now we will be able to do, analytics remotely as well. So if you have, somebody, say, if you're working in a plant, somebody works in a plant or a facility which is connected can transport data to India, we will be able to build solutions. Can you guys hear me? Something wrong with my...
No, somebody is unmuted, I think.
That was Subudhi. I think I've muted him.
So if you know somebody who's looking to outsource analytics work to India, we can do this remotely. And then we are open any technical alliance that you think will help us. So, or for example, any technology that you guys are building for edge devices, we'll be more than happy to use that. And if it helps us, do that, please. I'll look at questions.
Praveen, question, right? When you three decided that you have to go start this business, what the research work you guys did, that okay, there are already few folks few people already doing this business, and if or not doing, if they are doing, then how we will go ahead and as a competitor and defeat this other business people?
Lambu, simple answer is we didn't do much research. We just had the desire.
Internet research.
Internet research.
Okay. Google.
So around that area where there other people who were doing this business.
We did see, initially we started as solar, and very quickly we realized that solar business economics is very bad. At least in 2010-11 it was very bad. As per me, even today it continues to be bad because the pricing is too low, at least for India. So we did research. We concluded one thing, that there aren't many players and this space looks very big. Those were the two things that we were clear with from our research. And even US has done some work, China has done a lot of work. That was very clear to us. Otherwise, beyond that, we didn't, as I said, we didn't have a very clear business plan, but we knew the space is going to be good.
Yeah.
So
thanks, Praveen. I think
other folks to go to the other state.
Questions on the chat, bro.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll go with the questions from the chat box first, Praveen.
Okay.
First question is from Umesh. This is regarding what do you think about EVs, battery storage technologies, and how do you think the opportunities are there?
EVs, yeah, we don't know much about. I can only answer that EVs are a good efficiency changer. EVs, will work much more efficiently than the present vehicles. But I'm not the right person to answer anything on that. I think there are more people in this group who can answer that.
Yeah, the question was more towards where do you go from here next, right?
Where do we go from here? So Umesh, that is very clear. We are moving away from pure engineering company and moving towards analytics more. So we will continue to use data analytics and machine learning to find out, what the real differentiator is going to be in terms of savings. So example that I gave, for us, it was very shocking that there's only one parameter which takes the cake. 85% depends on this one parameter. We are yet to implement that and evaluate, but that's the direction we are going to move. We will continue to digitize the facilities and work on analytics more.
Hey, Pyaru, Sachin here. You talked about projects, starting from residential complexes to industries, So I believe the concept of energy efficiency in these manufacturing sector, like I'm talking about energy intensive industries, for example, where I come from, metallurgy, steel, etc., aluminum, where we have an inherent disadvantage when compared to the low cost or a gas fueled, melting like Middle East, etc. And these days the talks around the workshops is all around how do I maximize efficiency and reduce my cost, right from the furnace to rolling, etc. Yeah. So what sort of a solutions you think you can bring in these sectors, and how would Seven fit into this scheme of things which is emerging? To tell you, companies are dumping annual reports for sustainability reports, so that is becoming the barometers for people, global investors, to consider any investments in the Indian companies as well. So there is a shift that we have already seen in that dimension. So what do you think that sort of opportunity that opens up for a company like Seven?
Oh, it's a great opportunity, Sachin. Steel sector has been a very energy intensive sector. We haven't done much work because we did not have those kind of people with us. But however, like in our last conversation, I said, Sachin, we have quite a bit of overlap. See, you guys are consulting those plants. We can, in your consulting, we can really add this energy optimization. So utilities are same. The furnaces are large, yes, but ultimately, how energy is going to be saved in those furnaces remains same in a mid-sized plant and steel plant. Obviously, other utilities, your pumping, your cooling towers, your air compressors, these solutions are going to remain same. So air compressors, we will continue to do what we are doing in small plants at a larger scale. So, we will optimize the kWh per cubic feet of air. That's what we have to do. So same thing we will do, but we will need hand-holding from experts like you in that industry, and who can guide us in terms of process. And we will crack those utilities with your process knowledge and our energy engineering. Yeah. So we can't go alone to those plants, for sure.
Sounds great. I think we'll discuss this offline sometimes and
absolutely
see how we collaborate. Okay.
PD, PD, I have two questions. One question on suggestion. Question is on when do you think government will make it mandatory for all companies to go auditing, especially in energy auditing? So it's still not made mandatory.
Yeah,
so how do you think this can be achieved?
Yeah, I don't know, Rajshekhar, this is one thing that every time we attend meetings with Bureau of Energy Efficiency, this discussion is there, and we've been hearing this for the last 5-6 years. It is ultimately up
maybe
to
15 years, actually 20 years.
Yeah, maybe more than that. So they have mandated it for PAT. So large plants, they have mandated. Some state governments have come out with their own regulations. So in Maharashtra, we have anything above 1000 kVA, the energy audit every 3 years is mandatory, but they haven't been given target to reduce energy consumption like PAT has. In the last meeting that I attended with BE, we got to know that PAT is expanding towards commercial buildings. So now malls and even hotels will have those restrictions, but I don't know when will those be implemented. But
yeah, the malls have become completely energy free nowadays.
Yeah, now energy free.
Yeah.
So even hotels
Yeah.
actually.
And the second part, the second part of my thing is like, as of now, I mean, if you take Sachin's advice, like most of the manufacturing and other companies, they are more in optimization and they're really following most of the energy efficiency principles.
Yeah.
But when it comes to IT industry, they are the guzzlers of energy and they don't go by optimization. They're more into lavishness. So I think opportunities there in IT parks, IT industries, and I mean hospitality, where they don't care for the cost of energy, but their motto is, I mean, comfort. But that's the opportunity where you have.
So hospitality has become very conscious. Rajshekhar, I'll give you another stat when you talked about IT industry. We had zero success in IT industry. Zero customers.
Yeah, whereas the
We
first
came from
one that we,
IT.
first one that we audited was my Tech Mahindra. We had that report and it was to be filed in their annual report. That was the sole purpose of that particular audit that we did for them. Nothing beyond that. There was no intention of actually implementing the solutions that
They
were
don't
given. Yeah.
When we walked out, we thought,
But
when we started, we thought possibly at least IT के 2-3 project तो मिल ही जाएंगे. But actually आज भी zero है IT के projects.
But Terry has a big market in IT industry, so but it's still working like this is a small I mean market is captured.
Yeah, very small, very small. Yeah.
So, yeah, Pyaro Arun here.
Yeah, Arun.
How much of that
Hi.
do you think?
Go ahead.
IT guys believing that they probably do it better, or they just don't care?
They just
Don't care.
They don't care.
No, I won't disagree to that because as far as I know, when I was with TCS CEO himself, or I think somebody at finance level has clearly decided that if you increase number of employees, I want to keep the energy cost same. Okay, so TCS has developed similar solution, which at least they have deployed across all their centers. Okay, there was Economic Times article also for that. Okay.
So TCS and Infosys are two companies who has their internal teams to do that. They have their internal teams. Infosys, TCS are companies, but we still see a lot of TCS offices with still conventional lighting. Forget about air conditioning. But yeah, they have their teams internally.
No, but these are very, very small efforts. I think the problem is much more. I mean, the inefficiency is much more than what the efforts that have been made. And I think one or two companies only are doing it. Largely, they are oblivious because I don't think this is a must to have for them. It's a very small cost that they incur in their net.
That's the reason.
Yeah, that's the primary reason.
Arun, you're trying to ask a question.
Yeah, no. I was actually, first of all, I was trying to ask, and then we got into another. I was actually on a bike ride. I wanted to make sure that I attended, so I was listening all the while. Hopefully, but the point. So I was in India in energy efficiency with you. If you guys remember, we met in 20.
Oh yeah, we met in Blue Diamond.
Arun, I remember the lighting sciences, Arun.
Yeah. So we still. I think one of the things, to just go back to the previous topic, I always found that a new capex, like when you're putting new capex, people are more receptive to efficiency, putting efficient infrastructure versus going and changing retroactively, especially in IT companies. Is that something that you guys, is that an appropriate observation even now? Or
yeah, it is, because the cost is low, right, Arun? When you start, the retrofit cost is always higher.
Right.
Because when they make a new facility, they only pay delta extra, right?
Yeah, the delta is, that's the delta that they need to worry about, good versus bad. Otherwise, it is a complete replacement.
Yeah. And so my question,
sorry, go ahead.
Just one thought. What my question, having operated in from like 4 years, some of the biggest challenges that I found was one, the ability to collect money from your customer, right?
Yeah.
People still owe me a ton of money in India, right? Ton of money. Like and not me. I mean, my company, and some of it to me as well. The second is, I think, suppliers, right? The ability of the suppliers to actually able to like support the guarantees that they give you, especially because if you are going into a project with a multi-year warranty and the support that you will need on an ongoing basis, right? So do you find players who are able to do that? So I'm talking about the entire ecosystem. And then given the risk of the projects, do you find financial institutes actually willing to support the debt that is required there? I had in 2011 through 13, I think after a lot of search, was able to find a couple of companies that were able to, Tata's were one of them, right? So Tata Capital was actually putting in a ton of money, and they were willing to, they've invested with us in a lot of projects. But capital at that time was tough. How are things today?
So
in all the three?
I'll answer that question. You asked three questions really. So collections, if there is one reason I ever quit entrepreneurship, it is going to be the hassle of collections. So that hassle of collecting money, payments. Okay. Second, suppliers, basically suppliers, now there are suppliers. If you pay them extra money, they will extend warranties. They will extend warranties, and you have to be selective. Absolutely, you have to be selective. But you pay extra, you build that cost in your model, and you get that support. Financial institutions, the conversation that I think when I and Rohit attended first conference when we were at jobs, we went to attend one conference on the efficiency. That time they had a pool of 270 crores, and I attended a meeting in January in Bombay. The pool still is 270 crores. So I actually had to tell them, this time it was EESL's office, Energy Efficiency Service, which is the super ESCO of India. I had to tell them that this figure existed 10 years ago and at least 8-9 years ago, and you still the same thing. Obviously they don't like it, but yeah, that nothing much has changed in that. Rohit, you were trying to add something to this?
No, I was just saying that besides what you have the contract with you and the customer, a back-to-back contract with who's supplying you, even if that operates at a 60% efficiency, you have to build that into your model that you are offering to the customer. I think that is kind of the crux, and how well you do that contract with your vendor I mean, will make or break your project.
So Arun, we factor in replacement cost. We say, okay, after 5 years, we'll have to replace.
And I mean, I also have dealt with the government sector as well in ESCO sort of projects, and like collecting money is a big hassle.
Oh yeah, we did a Nasik project.
Yeah.
We haven't got the money.
Yeah, we haven't got it. We still have
Yeah,
some
we so for record, we for the entire all the pumps that Nasik Municipal Corporation owns, we have audited those.
I
And
think with
that's a
IoT
huge
now we
lot.
can switch off, right?
Yeah.
With IoT, you can actually use to probably turn off, slow it down, and
irritate them. No.
Yeah.
So there are two parts. One, you first find out what is the inefficiency, and then you intervene. This is stuck at the first part itself. So yeah.
It doesn't happen. I have an interesting question from Kobre. I'll answer that. Kobre, you've asked, did you have a time frame in mind at the start? How long you would stick to this? Kobre, when we started, I don't know if Kobre is still around. When we started, we thought we'll make it big in 3 years. That's what we thought. So in our case, we kept moving forward, though at a slow pace. So we didn't have enough reason to shut it down. So we kept moving forward, and now we think, yeah, we are at a point where this can actually explode. This can be replicated at a larger pace if given the right capital. So yeah.
How well are you known in this space? As in Seven as a brand, how well are you known in this space?
We are, Sachin, we are not known in steel industry, but within the government ecosystem and financial institutions and Maharashtra particularly, pretty known.
What is your
we won 2-3 awards, right? And the projects that we've done also won some state level awards.
2016, we were at, we won the second best ESCO award in Maharashtra, and a lot of our clients have won awards.
Good.
Awesome.
Praveen and Rohit.
Guys, there's a simple request in the background. Can you please switch on your video cameras so Nagesh can take a screenshot?
Guys, everybody, just
all. I mean, we meant everyone, please. Whoever is on the call.
Rohit,
45 are in the call.
Rohit,
so
why are you hiding, man?
Anand, can you
Rohit.
please switch off yours?
Rohit.
Put your video, man.
Anand, can you please switch off yours so the picture looks prettier?
Okay, so
I need a dark space here.
guys, listen. There are going to be two pictures.
Yeah, finally I
Right.
can see Smashy. Oh,
Yeah, finally we can say Smashy. Yeah. So
yeah,
good.
Rampai, good.
Picture one coming up now. All
Kiran,
smiles at
Vishal.
3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then there's going to be a second picture. Again, not enough who have videos open here.
Rohit, background check.
Yeah, Pratap, you have to set properly.
Yeah,
Full
okay.
clear.
Again at 1, 2, 3. 1,
Yes, good.
2, 3. Okay, thank you guys.
Okay.
All right,
Praveen.
Praveen and Rohit, guys, it was great, really great story. Again, warm
Hey guys,
wishes from
one
all of us
final
to make it
question, man.
successful. Actually, yeah. I just wanted to ask you one question, Rohit. With all this COVID thing, whatever the government has announced, some of the support for his MSMEs, do you see any on-ground help from additional help from banks or anything that has eased up in the recent times?
I'll tell you.
Yeah,
my
on the
conversation with
lending
bankers,
side,
Bharat.
the from the banks, I'm not considering the energy business, but government has launched some schemes called ECLG, and there are some MSME help that government has done.
So, but I'll tell you
Moratorium
the-
periods. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are some moratorium periods that they have offered. Plus, there is a ECLGS scheme that they have launched, which is at a lower rate. So NBFCs and banks are supposed to lend to these MSMEs at a kind of a lower rate. And whatever NPAs that may come, the government will cover those. So a lot of people lending to non-PAN card kind of people as well.
No, but I'll tell you, Bharat, while Rohit is saying that NBFCs are supposed to, or banks are supposed to, but I'll tell you my conversations with the bankers these days. The same NBFC used to call me in 2019 and used to offer money at 14 to 16%. And now they call me and I ask them, what is your rate of interest? They say 19 to 22%.
That
I told them,
that must be Bajaj
I'm going to offer you at
Finserv.
16. I'm going to offer you at 16. That's the IDFC securities, which we've taken money from them in past. And I told them, I'll offer you money at 16. You take it from us. So
that's Bajaj Finserv for you.
Did you
Bajaj
did you
Finserv
talk to
also.
Sajesh? Did you talk to Sajesh?
Sajesh, banker.
Sajesh क्या बोल रहा है?
Are you lending money? We are not getting any such offers.
Yeah. It looks like Arun has some money. You should ask him, Arun, and maybe Subudh. Huh?
Arun has that वही बोलने वाला था प्रवीण. One of your slides should have been.
Monty को पूछा क्या? Monty का overflow हो रहा है account.
अबे पहले बैंकर को तो बोलो. सजीश कुछ बता रहा है बैंकर.
सजीश तो बॉम्बे में भी है.
One of your slides should have been how to invest in your enterprise to get that 25%.
Yeah, that we've taken. The shot that Anant has taken. He's going to mark people and send it to us. Who all you should talk to offline.
That's a lead generation. That's a lead generation photograph.
But on a serious note, Dadish, are you looking for investment? Are you looking for? You mentioned debt.
Yeah.
So are you looking for that? What is the quantum? If you can let us know, then maybe people who are interested can.
Sure.
Possibly...
So we see. I think good point, Sajesh. I'm glad you asked that. We are looking for equity to dilute our stake to raise money for growth. We are also open to take debt for projects at reasonable rates. And we are also, as I said, we are going to introduce a new model of equity investment in project. Not only debt. So we will, the investors will share the risk and share the returns as well. So we definitely are open for it. We are presently working on two very large energy guzzlers. One is a hotel, another one is a meat processing unit. So both of them will need a lot of money. Obviously, right now we are waiting that when things settle down, we will start those projects. So we are
Praveen,
both of us. Yeah.
Praveen, this is Vijayanand here from Mysore.
Yeah. Hi.
We are actually myself and Vinay are working. Vinay Vasist.
Yeah.
Working with a lot of startups and training them and mentoring them to get the next level of funding. So Vinay works for Ecosystem Ventures. What we are doing is we have lined up about 8 companies for Ecosystem Ventures. So probably if you could, if you're okay, then I can arrange a meeting with our team here. You could speak to them and then make a presentation. Already I've spoken to SJC Step Director and also to the JSS Hospital, the medical director for both the hospital and medical college. I've already spoken and I requested them for a power audit to be done by your team so that they can save a lot, because 1,200 beds are there and hospitals spend a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So that can be a big savings for them. And JSS as a whole, they've got 350 plus organizations across. So if they can save power in nothing like that.
No, sure. We'll connect with you offline. We'll take. We're interested in both of them.
So I think all of us should get a lot of leads for Praveen in whatever way, either be it in funding or in getting business. I think that is what this forum is all about. So I think we should work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you both for making that appeal.
Praveen,
I'm sorry, I have to butt in a little. The photographs I took did not come through. I will have to do a round 2 of this. Sorry.
Hey guys, this is not acceptable if Rohit Sharma doesn't put on his video.
Rohit was running
Bombay se काम चलाएंगे.
Rohit was trying to find the background. Yeah, this looks good.
Yeah, so Shetty, you're still not on. I see Sony not on still.
Rohit.
I don't know who Arjun is, but who's logged in as Arjun?
Hemant Kini.
Okay,
Hemant Kini. Arjun is Hemant Kini.
Arjun Salendra.
Okay, so guys.
Yeah, Praveen, just as a size, how big a company are you? How many people kind of thing?
Sorry, that's a question for me, Anand, or you're clicking the photograph? Okay. So Anand, we are, direct employees are about 11. We are still a small company, and indirect, we basically don't hire implementers on our roles. So that is outsourced. So we have about 12 people who are dedicated working for us from the outsourced teams. So that's really our area.
Right. Okay. While you guys are speaking,
Praveen,